What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question comes from Ron Barron, who asks if we think Avengers Endgame or Star Wars Episode 9 will be more successful, and if we're worried a more successful Avengers movie would anger the Star Wars fan base. Well, first of all, they're always angry. That will never change.
Yeah, this is just like, what more is this going to do? But I honestly do think that Endgame is probably going to outperform 9 at the box office.
Yes, I agree. Marvel is just bigger in every sense.
I mean, they're like the gold standard of movies right now.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be Marvel with their cinematic universe, and they're pulling it off.
Yeah, and then like the stars of countless movies at this point are going to be in this one movie.
That's true.
Like
a ton of big names in here.
Yeah, you could be a fan of only Black Panther, but you're gonna watch Endgame because he's gonna be in it, most likely.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a 22 movie series at that point when Endgame comes out, I think. And this is like the conclusion of all of those movies and everything that built up to this point. I mean, yeah, it's going to do really, really well.
I mean, you could say the same thing about 9 being the conclusion of the Skywalker.
That's true. I mean, it's,
story.
42 years of storytelling, but only 9 movies. So, I mean, yeah, I do see that there's a very clear comparison there, but I think that 9 is probably, or I think that Endgame is going to outperform 9, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, unless 9 just really stinks, I'm probably going to like 9 more just because that's where my passion is. I love the Star Wars universe. I really like the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've gone to see every single one of the movies, and I don't think I've walked out of any of them except for maybe like Iron Man 2 going like, that was kind of disappointing. Most of them, I see them and I'm like, that was great. And I leave the theater and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I think we've watched like the Avengers movies multiple times, but most of them, except for maybe like Iron Man or Winter Soldier, most of them we've only seen the one time.
Mm-hmm.
But other people, like diehard Marvel fans, they're probably the flip, where they go and they see all the Star Wars movies and they're like, well, that was fun. And they really love the Marvel movies. So it's just because one movie outperforms the other doesn't mean that like 9 isn't going to be great.
Yeah, I would say stop comparing the two franchises.
Yeah. It's not a competition.
Yeah.
They're just like, we get all these fun movies and that's awesome.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter which one does better. Everyone's like worried about how well 9's gonna do. Who cares?
Yeah, just you like it or you don't, and that's it. And what's funny is like Disney's just laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Like whoever wins in this scenario, it's like they win no matter what.
They're in charge of all of it.
Yeah.
They're gonna run the world pretty soon. Alden Diaz wants to know what our favorite completely silly things are in Star Wars.
I just wanted to start by saying that sometimes as an adult, I forget how silly and goofy Star Wars can be. And every new like Disney movie, there's been something where I'm like, that's just too silly and I don't like it. I'm like the Rathtars, Bor Gullet, the Lady Proxima in Solo. And also I specifically remember in Solo when they walk into Dryden's yacht and there's like that singing head in the tube.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, that's kind of dumb. And then like in that moment, I remembered that on my piano at home, I've got 3 blue elephants sitting there, and I love Max Rebo, and he's so silly and goofy, and I'm like, oh, I need to lighten up because this new singing head in the tank he's like the new Max Rebo. So
yeah,
Max Rebo is my answer. He's my favorite purely silly thing.
I couldn't think of like one single answer for this, but along those lines, just all the music in general is pretty silly to me, but there has to be like a Star Wars version of a band, and it has to be quirky and, you know, weird space music, so I don't know.
It is always very quirky, and yeah, to go back to I need to learn this guy's name, the singing head in the tank.
Yeah.
That's like my brand. I need to know that.
Yeah.
It's going to come up in a Schmodown. But yeah, like his song is so weird, but I oddly kind of like it.
Mm-hmm.
Just that solo soundtrack, I love it.
And something else I think is silly, but also I guess necessary in a way, and I bring it up every time we watch the original movies or anytime Vader shows up, period, is his excessive finger shaking
Yeah.
whenever he talks. And it's
In
like,
your face.
yeah, and like how close he gets to people when he talks to them is just seems really awkward. But I mean, he's a guy in a giant suit. He's got to, as an actor, he's got to do something with his hands.
Yeah, he has to rely on body language since his face is hidden.
Yeah. So, but like every time that part comes up, my my finger just automatically goes up, and he does it a little bit in Rogue One too. And
we kind of like
I
hit each other.
appreciated that moment so much, even though it seems really silly to me. Also, all the Imperials are British.
Yeah, there's a lot of silly stuff in Star Wars.
Boss Nass is pretty silly.
That's a good one we hadn't thought about. There you go.
Tyler Williams asks who we think is the wisest character in Star Wars.
You want to start?
I mean, we both kind of agreed that Yoda probably was, but then I remembered about the Bendu, and we didn't get a whole lot from him in Rebels, but he is kind of a creature of the Force, I guess, so I don't know. We don't know his limits exactly.
Yeah, we need to see more from him, I think. I mean, Yoda is the obvious answer where we read that question. We were like, Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to try to take a step further, and I'm going to say maybe Qui-Gon Jinn, because I think that while we get the most from Yoda, and he is like the archetype of wisdom in this story, he's not without flaws. Not to say Qui-Gon has no flaws, but I think that he, in The Phantom Menace, was more in line with the Jedi Order and what they were meant to be than Yoda was. And by Yoda's own admission, at least in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, like, he held the Jedi Order back from their full potential, and he learned, and like, he's very different in the original trilogy than he is in the prequel trilogy. So Yoda, I think, gets there, but Qui-Gon seemed to have a better handle on it all from earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only, what, 50? Yoda's got 800 and something years on him.
Yeah.
So I'll say that there's an argument for Qui-Gon.
Yeah. I would also say Leia.
Yeah.
Over her entire character arc, I would say she goes through some tough stuff and has to make a lot of big decisions.
Especially for her age.
Yeah. And same with Padme. I mean, she was a 14-year-old queen that had to make a lot of important decisions, and like all her stuff throughout Clone Wars. And Leia and Padme have like a separate kind of wisdom that isn't necessarily involved in the Force, because like you say wisest character and you think Yoda because
That's
of the
true.
Force, but as character development goes, Leia and Padme are both, like, as they go through their character arcs, have to make a lot of big decisions. And the line that comes to my mind immediately is, someone has to save our skins. Like, Leia takes charge when she needs to, and
that's something I hadn't even considered. It's like, yeah, you think of wisdom and you immediately go to the Force, but that's just like a small percentage of the people in that galaxy. And now I'm thinking of like, oh yeah, Mon Mothma, Bail Organa. Like, there are a lot of wise people that have nothing to do with the Force in Star Wars. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
In The Last Jedi, you know, Leia is telling Poe to fall back, and he doesn't listen, and they lose all their bombers, and that was a wise choice on her, like, leadership role.
Which is why she gets taken out of the movie for, like, put into a coma for a little bit, is because we needed Poe's wise guiding light to be out of commission.
Yeah. Daniel Simonson wants to know if we could see a live-action Hondo Ohnaka at Galaxy's Edge, because he's supposed to send us on a mission in the Millennium Falcon ride.
Yes, I think that's very likely. I think that we will get a live-action version. I think he will probably be CG, because in some behind-the-scenes videos, they've shown, like, animators sculpting what looks like Hondo. So, yeah, I would guess that we're going to get a computer-generated but meant to look photorealistic version of Hondo.
It would be really cool if they had someone, like, in a mask and makeup, but I think it would probably take too long and be too rigorous of a job to have at Disney. But if they had one person leading each group into the,
like if Hondo were physically there.
well, physically there for like a moment. I'm thinking of the Terminator thing at Universal where
Yeah.
they have the actors kind of come in and out of the screen.
Sure.
So if they had a guy dressed up as Hondo lead you into the cockpit and then like go out of the actual Millennium Falcon but then come on screen, like it could be a mixture of both.
That's it. I was just envisioning like someone on the screen because I guess I'm envisioning something like Star Tours where you have RX guiding you around. But yeah, I hadn't considered the fact that there could be someone in a suit. So I don't know.
Or like a hologram.
Sure. Which apparently Disney is working on some sort of hologram technology for the park.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, yeah, that's possible.
That would be something that would make sense, like something that's on the, what do you call it? The dashboard.
The dashboard.
Of the Millennium Falcon.
Sure.
You got your GPS, your XM radio.
And your rear view mirror with your dice hanging off of it.
Yeah. Joe Labrosse asks what our favorite Star Wars media is, not counting the movies.
So our favorite way to consume Star Wars stories outside of the movies. Well, I grew up with the Legends books, so those are still like a big event to me. I think I look forward to the books. They're spaced out just enough where it's like one a month, one every other month, where I get to build a little of excitement. They always feel like they're telling a more important story, I guess. So I want to go with the books.
I'll say the books also. I don't read every book that comes out. I try to, and I don't read every comic that I don't read every comic that comes out, but I try to at least stay caught up in the general story. But there are a lot of books that have really reeled me in and surprised me. But I feel like my answer is going to change when The Mandalorian comes out.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say TV shows because I didn't really grow up watching The Clone Wars. I like it, but I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah, we don't have that nostalgic attachment to it.
Yeah. And like I like Rebels a lot, but I think The Mandalorian is going to be made for a little bit of an older audience, and I think it's really going to be good.
Yeah, I mean,
Same with the Cassian show.
Yeah, I totally agree. The animated shows, like, there are moments where they achieve greatness, and I think that the rest of the series are worth it every time. Rebels, like, if I think back, there are a handful of episodes where I'm like, man, that's top tier Star Wars, and the rest of it's like, this was fun to watch and look forward to once a week. But yeah, I think that The Mandalorian has a real chance to knock books off of the second place for me.
Yeah.
and make TV right under the movies.
Yeah, just anything live action in general, I think, is probably gonna get right under movies as far as consuming media goes.
Makes sense. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained goodies like audio commentaries for the films and the TV shows, and this week we are releasing our commentary for Duel of the Droids and the Clone Wars, so you can check those out right now if you're interested.
On to YouTube questions. Jay Mikowski asks, what video games exist in Star Wars outside of that hologram game we see Kaz and Tora play in Star Wars Resistance?
I can't think of anything that's used like that in Resistance that gets such a big feature, but there is like an arcade cabinet in Aunt Z's bar. Those dartboards in Aunt Z's bar are kind of holographic, so I don't know if that starts to lean into video game territory. And then holo chess, I mean,
yeah,
it depends on what you consider a video game or not, because I mean that's basically just video chess. Is chess on your computer considered a video game? I don't know.
There might be like a virtual droid fighting game that we don't know about.
I mean, I did look up a list of just games on Wikipedia, and there are a lot of them, but they weren't all video games. It also included things like the slot machine, Canto Bight. So there are more out there, but I can't think of anything that are as significant as that one.
Yeah. Carbonite Hunter wants to know what we do not want to see in episode 9 other than another Starkiller base.
That's everyone. When they have asked me in the past, I've always been like, if we get Starkiller base 2.0, I'm going to be very disappointed. But my new answer is going to be Snoke. If he is revealed to like have had clones or he's resurrected or something, that's going to annoy me. But just because I'll be like, oh, it's just like Dark Empire and the resurrected Palpatine. And if someone dies, I think they should die. Same, I've gone on and on about how I think bringing Darth Maul back is like, his story is really great, but it opens up this can of worms. And it's just, death should matter. That's all I think.
Yeah. I was thinking about this for a long time. I think a couple people have asked us if we think that there will be another Kylo mask, and I don't want to see another mask.
I think that was brought up in a Q&A actually a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a good answer or not, but yeah, I don't think he's going to make another mask or need another mask, really.
I agree that he doesn't need one. Would it ruin the movie for you if...
No, I just think that the symbolism of him destroying the mask in The Last Jedi was a really great moment, and for him to have another one after that, I don't think makes sense for where his character is going.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree about the symbolism. I guess I'm kind of preparing myself for if it's true, like how I can be okay with it. And by the way, like if Snoke were to come back in 9, what would happen to me in the theater is I would go, all right, I'd roll my eyes and be like, okay, we're back in. Yeah. Like, this is what's happening. I'm on board.
You wouldn't just automatically get up and
leave.
Up
and I'd walk out.
And give up forever.
And I'd say hashtag not my Snoke.
Star Wars, but never ever stop talking about it.
Yeah. So if Kylo were to have a helmet, I could see it like if he were going to use one for battle, like for defense. No?
I don't think he is the type that thinks he needs a defense helmet.
I mean, he thought he needed a helmet in episode 7, so I'm like, maybe in 9 he could find a happy middle ground where he's not wearing it all the time, but if he's like, I want to protect my beautiful hair a little bit, just pop a helmet on.
Well, in 7 it was kind of part of the development of his character. He was trying to
totally
be
agree.
Someone he wasn't, and he hadn't really come into his own yet, and yeah, I do think if the Knights of Ren are in 9, they will have masks on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not during the entire film, obviously, because we think some of the new actors may be the Knights of Ren, hopefully. So I think they might start out with masks and eventually take them off or take them on and off. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with everything you said about his mask and the symbolism of destroying it. And I loved that moment as well. And I think that I would prefer it if he were just like, yeah, I'm Kylo Ren. I don't have the mask. I don't need it anymore. But just in the eventuality, like that happens, It's like, it'll be okay.
I also don't know how much kissing I want to see. I remember being in the theater for Last Jedi, and when Finn and Rose kissed, it completely took me by surprise and didn't really like it.
That's true. There hasn't been a strong romance, just like Kylo and Rey. I think there's an argument to be made there, but I don't think they're going to be kissing in 9. Rose and Finn maybe, but I'm kind of with you. Like, that romance didn't feel like it developed. The kiss kind of came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be interesting if they all of a sudden had a romantic subplot. With a time jump, anything's possible, I guess.
Right, yeah.
In the crawl, it's going to say like... Poe has been going on a lot of dates.
Yeah. Yeah, I just... Like you said, the building of a romantic timeline, I just don't think there's room for it. not to say that there won't be a random kiss somewhere, and again, it's not gonna like ruin the movie for me and make me get up and leave. I just think, I don't know, that it would make sense.
Yeah, it's not something you're specifically looking for.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chromius asks if the Executor crashed into the second Death Star because of its gravity or because of some other reason.
I always assumed it was the Death Star's gravity. But also, we were just watching the scene to make sure we had everything right. And the Executor is just hovering above the second Death Star. And then the A-Wing crashes into the bridge. And it just, like all Star Wars ships do, it makes no sense in space. But in Star Wars, if a ship gets disabled, it goes down. So it just goes down into the Death Star. So I don't know that it necessarily was its gravity. I mean, you could make the argument for it, but like, if for whatever reason the Executor were flipped upside down, if the Death Star was above it and it got hit, I think it would have gone down, because that's just what ships in Star Wars do.
Yeah. I think it was just for special effects purposes. Yeah. Like, they wanted to literally pierce the Death Star, I think. They really missed a great opportunity to have the nose go straight into the Death Star and have it just go...
Pop it like a balloon.
Yeah. Big missed opportunity.
That would have been it, but everyone stuck inside the Death Star would have been...
Yeah.
So that would have killed Lando and Wedge.
But, like, could you imagine seeing the Death Star just like a balloon, just like flying all over the galaxy?
Think of the comments that would... You monster.
Joe Kerr wants to know if Luke's use of telekinesis in the Wampa Cave was supposed to be the first time he used that power.
No. I mean, we've seen him use it in Heir to the Jedi and in the comics as well. The actual full question is saying, like, that he thinks it was meant to be the first time he ever used it. Like, that's how it's shown. I don't really think I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, at the time of when this movie came out, yeah, it was the first time
it's new to us.
We were seeing him use that power, but he does it so confidently. It makes me think that he knows he can do that, but he's injured, so he's having a little bit of trouble. He's very injured. He's upside down.
Yeah, it's something that it's like, I get the feeling he knew he could do it, but it's not something he was super competent at, because like first he just reaches and he's like, can't reach it. And then he has to really like close his eyes and focus. Yeah. And then he does it pretty easily.
Remember his training. So we assume he has practiced this at some point.
He's a little noodle scooter in Heir to the Jedi. That book.
For those of you who haven't read Heir to the Jedi,
he scoots a noodle along a table, and then his kind of sort of romantic interest in that book calls him a noodle scooter, and we all collectively rolled our eyes.
Emperor Palpatine asks for our opinions on why Luke didn't believe Kylo Ren could be redeemed in The Last Jedi.
So the way I interpret that is that Luke didn't think that Kylo Ren was irredeemable. I think he just knows that he's not the one that can do it.
Yeah.
I think that Kylo Ren has nothing but anger and hatred for Luke. There's no way he would ever trust Luke again. So Luke is like, I'm here to buy you guys some time. Mm-hmm. He's also like, we didn't know this at the time, but he knows he's not there to kill Kylo. He can't. Mm-hmm. He's just there to be a distraction. And I just think that he knows that there's no way. He says to Leia, I can't save him.
Yeah.
And he goes out and he faces Kylo.
It'd be interesting if in 9 we got some dialogue from Force Ghost Luke about this exact topic.
Yeah, like whether or not he thinks there is still good.
Yeah.
In Ben. I mean, he also tells Leia no one's ever really gone when she says that my son is gone. So I think that he probably thinks, having, redeemed Darth Vader, he's probably like, there's a chance. Mm-hmm. Just, I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below, or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.